Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Money Healing Podcast. So, today we've got a very fun guest talking about a very boring topic. No, I'm kidding. I'm just cracking her up. So, Misa Bacon is here, and Misa is a bookkeeper. Hi, Misa. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. So we're going to be talking to you all about bookkeeping. So you've got two number nerds here, but we are both fun people. And I know that you all know me, but you don't know Misa. But I brought her on because she talks about numbers in a very empowering and holistic way, just like I do. I wouldn't bring any boring bookkeeper to lecture us here on the Money Healing Podcast out of all podcasts. I often get people messaging me saying, do you want so and so on your podcast? They are so frugal and know how to do things on the cheap. I'm like, do I sound like this is exactly what we need to heal from? No, that's not what we need. So I love the way you look at numbers. I love your perspective. And tell us a little bit about yourself before we dive in.
So I'm Misa, as Nadine said, and
I wasn't lying.
I
She
am
is Misa.
yes, I am actually a previous corporate ladder climber. So I came from the corporate world. I was, there building up my career, working in the accounting department, and I got to a point where I hit a ceiling, and I was like, I'm gonna have to do something else. And when I was trying to think of what I could do, like what type of business could I create, somehow bookkeeping came along and it made sense.
It called to you. She's like,
it really did.
Come and get me.
and it's so funny because I love everything about it. People are always like, you must really like this. And I'm like, yes, I do.
I love bookkeeping. I used to do bookkeeping courses in my free time. That's how much I love bookkeeping. It's yummy.
So exciting, and because I don't know if people they don't see the beauty of it, and I do, and I
do.
That's what
Are you a Virgo? Because
no,
I'm a Virgo.
Gemini.
You're a Gemini. Oh, you might have some. I don't know what it is, but I also get off on as your business is called, perfectly kept books.
Yes.
I love that. So, if I ask you what turns you on in life, in addition to perfectly kept books, what else turns you on in life?
Well, so you may or may not know that. So I am a mom of one. I have a very, very creative daughter, and being able to see her kind of walk in her creativity and actually she just found something she really loves and enjoys, and allowing her to be able to really immerse herself in that has been the best thing ever, because it's not something I had as a child. We just have to do whatever we're supposed to do, but seeing that she has an interest in something, and then really being able to support her around that and expose her to things that, I don't know anything about the arts, and so I'm learning all kinds of things
that's
as well.
So nice when your child teaches you. That's excellent. So I don't know about you, but me growing up, my dad would just be very grades oriented. So nothing artsy. If it has to do with sports, it was okay because my uncle was a basketball coach. So that was okay. That was sanctioned, right? Mm-hmm. But anything that's artsy, anything musically inclined, I'm still very musically inclined. It was like, is this gonna get you good grades? No, I'm not spend money on that. I'm like, all right, Dad. That's his Arabic accent. just to be clear what accent I'm putting on. So it's all about the grades. And so you were just saying you didn't have that that chance when you were a kid. So it's nice that you're offering it to your child. So
yeah.
How old is she?
So it's really, really fun and exciting. And then also being able to, coming from, as a bookkeeper, because I can offer certain, pieces of advice and things if she decides, oh, well, hey, I want to be a working artist and I want to do all these things, because I know her and she would need me to support her on the things that she doesn't like. So that works to her benefit.
That's how it's supposed to be. If you don't like something, don't bloody do it.
Exactly.
How old is your daughter?
She is 14. So she just started high school. Yes.
What a lovely age to have a mom like you. That's lovely.
Yes.
It's
good.
Fun.
So, yeah.
So you left the corporate world and you were like, all right, bookkeeping, hit me. Then what happened?
Well, so it took me a minute to really get started, because, especially when you come out of the corporate environment, you don't really know what you
You
have to
don't, do
offer.
you?
And
Yeah, right?
you're like, I don't really know if I can do this, or like, am I going to find clients? Like, what is going to happen?
What do
And
I do now? Like
exactly
the
what, like,
day after I left my corporate job, I was like, yeah, who's what do I Arby? My dog Arby. So what are we doing now? Can someone manage me, please? Because I just feel
exactly.
so
And
like,
that's, yeah,
oh shit. You know, when you go to a restaurant and there's like a million things on the menu and
yes,
you're starving, you're like, can someone choose something for me?
exactly.
Yeah, that's the feeling. I get that. Yeah.
Exactly. So, in the beginning, really trying to figure things out. And I ended up signing up for a program, a bookkeeping
Hmm.
business program, to help me get started and really get going, because I was completely lost. And
Hmm.
that program really helped. And I was so
Nice.
excited that I could get things going. And, I started getting clients. And then
Hmm.
I was like, oh, okay, I'm doing it. Like, it's
Flowing.
working.
Yeah.
People want to work with me.
People love
And
you. I
yeah,
sent you a client. Got this like energy to you. So
that is what I've
yeah.
been told, and I didn't really realize that or think about it before, but I'm like, now, because that's all the feedback I get. They're just like,
Yeah.
I just love Misa. Like, it's
Yeah.
just fun to be around.
I mean, numbers are unpleasant, right? Like, yes, I do money, but I don't do numbers. I do numbers with my clients after we do money healing. We do like we I anti-budget them pretty much, like I decondition the budgeting out of them, so we get into numbers there. But in general, when people are told to look at their taxes, look at their books, look at their numbers, like, oh, it's icky. It's like this
Hmm.
moment of truth, and you want someone that makes it light and makes it happy and makes it into this like nice light moment, like you
Exactly.
do, even though you are pretty freaking serious about what you do. You know your
I am.
shit, right?
Oh, I
Yeah.
am. I'm very serious.
But we
Like,
need a friendly face and a friendly
yes.
voice, because all the time, every time I would go and get my taxes done or my books done, I get this like really bored looking
Hmm.
person that just wants to like shit on life and hates everything and just grunt answers at me. And the tax person I work with now, oh my god, I love him so much. He is the coolest person ever. And I do my own books, but as a bookkeeper, I feel so comfortable sending my people to you because I know you offer that comfort, that safety of, you answer questions and you're not
Hmm.
grunt, like uh,
Yes.
memorize answers back at people and shame them for not doing their books or
Exactly.
whatever. That's a very big one. That
Exactly.
do you feel also that there's this layer of shame that you have to kind of hold people's hands through?
Yes, and that's something. It's something that I recognize, because I know that the industry, like when you think of the accounting industry, it's bad. It's just bad all around. Like, there's no personality. There's you
No,
you they don't treat people like people. And
not
I'm like,
people. Yeah.
these are still people, and they're
Mhm.
just not comfortable, and they don't understand this part of, their business, or just
Yeah.
numbers in general, and it can be very scary. And
Yeah.
I always keep that in mind, because I'm like, yes, I love numbers. I understand them, and it's fun
I
for
love
me,
them
but
too.
I know that's not where everyone comes from.
Hmm.
But not everyone approaches it that way. They're just kind of
Yeah.
like, well, this is what it is. You should know this. And no, they don't.
Yeah.
They don't know. That's
They
why they're
don't.
coming to you and
The
asking
shame also
questions.
comes from this like expectation that we're all
Hmm.
like come out of the womb knowing money and numbers. Like,
Exactly.
who here learned about bookkeeping and accounting and taxes at school? Because I didn't, for sure. I learned algebra. That really is so good for me every morning. Like, what the fuck? I'm sure it had its like perks,
Yeah.
but I don't think anyone learned these things, and yet we
No.
all feel shame and dread and like I'm not good enough feeling. And
Hmm.
we all have to understand that this is an acquired knowledge. It's not something that we're born with. I mean, there
Exactly.
are some weird people like myself and you that love numbers, but we had to learn and we continue
Exactly.
to learn,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And some of us want a little bit more hand holding, and some of us have trauma around money and wounding around money that need even further hand holding, right? So
Exactly.
it does come in levels, right? So,
And that's the
yeah.
thing, meeting the person where they are, because
Hmm.
I've met all ranges of people, like people who are just like, I haven't looked at my numbers and I don't know how long, and I'm afraid to look at them, to people who are like, oh, I know what's going on. Like, I just need somebody
Mhm.
to do it. Like, I got it.
Exactly.
And so there's a
Yeah.
range of people, and there's a variety of different things that everyone is dealing with and how they feel about numbers and money and all of that. So that's what I keep in mind, and just approach the person that's like actually in front of me. If this is someone who
Mhm.
I can tell needs a little hand
Like a
holding,
human.
exactly, I will give them the hand holding that they need. If it's someone who's like,
Yeah.
you got it, don't bother me, I'm like, okay, I got it, I won't bother you.
I
So
mean,
it's
yeah.
understanding the person. And most accountants and bookkeepers in general, they're just like, okay, whatever, this person, I'm doing their books, and
Yeah, it's just a
it's
number.
just a
The
number,
person is
whatever.
a number,
Yeah,
their number is a number. There's no emotions or anything behind their
exactly.
numbers, and that's so not true. That's the actual problem with money these days, is that
Yes.
it's deeper than numbers, yet the majority of people just look at it as numbers. They don't look at the person or the
Hmm.
emotions or like the story behind the transactions that they see, right?
Exactly. And that's where I want to come in and really support people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's why you're here on the Money Healing podcast.
Yes.
So, why should business owners even look at their numbers? You mentioned looking at numbers, and why do you think people should look at their numbers?
It is the foundation of your business. So it's just like you have a house and your house is built on a foundation. That's what your bookkeeping is doing for your business. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter what else you're doing in your business. If you don't really understand what's happening and what's going on, you can't really make decisions. So, say for
Mhm.
instance, you're trying to plan, I don't know, maybe you're going to hire someone for marketing or something. You're like, well, I want to put some effort into marketing. Well, how much effort should you put in? Do you know, like, are you even bringing in revenue right now? Or how much do you have available to spend on that? Like,
Mhm.
these are the answers that you'll get from your bookkeeping. And most people just think, oh yeah, I just need to do my bookkeeping for taxes. And I'm like,
Okay.
yes, you do need them for taxes. That is part of it. But
Mhm.
it's something you need all throughout the year as you're running your business, because it will help
Yeah.
you to make the best informed decisions versus just kind of, playing it by ear.
Yeah.
like
Just
like most of
winging.
us usually do. It's just like, I'll play
Uh,
it by ear, I'll figure it out later. But when you
yeah.
actually get into the numbers and into your books, you can see, oh, maybe I'm not charging enough, and I actually need to charge more so that I can,
Mhm.
cover my expenses and then pay myself and all the other things
Mhm.
that come with running a business.
I like to always say, and tell me if that's something that you would also that you agree with as well. So I like to, when people come and ask me like, how do I price myself, especially business owners or service providers, I like to work backwards. So I tell them to calculate their personal, what we call needs, which is like your mortgage, your rent, your bills, your groceries, your doctor appointments, everything that like is a must have. And then you double that. So let's say your must haves are like 3,000, you double that, that's 6,000. That is your, that's the what you need to make just for you. And then add on your business expenses and a little bit of a savings for your business. And that's how you determine
Yeah.
how much you
Yes,
price.
yes, that's the same approach I have too.
Oh,
Because
you do too?
because
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
because people are always like, well, how should I price it? I'm like, it's going to depend on you. Because I'm
Yeah.
like, someone who maybe they're living a different lifestyle, maybe someone wants to live the
Hmm.
luxurious life, so they're going to
Yeah.
have different needs and wants
Of
versus someone who
course.
doesn't. And
What
so
if
it's like,
someone has like 14 children versus you
exactly,
have no children, right? I
exactly.
mean, my dog's very expensive. She only eats organic food, don't you, Arbs? But like, I would probably assume that me and if I have a neighbor who has 10 children, they might have more expenses. Therefore, if we're both running the same business, we might have
Exactly.
very different product suites, right?
Exactly. And I'm like,
Mhm.
that is the absolute best way to approach it. And that way
Yeah.
you can get a real number that's
Mhm.
actually going to make sense for you.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah,
move from
that's
there. Yeah.
one way of calculating your number. Of course, there's like the energetic way of like how does it feel and if it makes sense and who your target audience is and
Hmm.
what do you think they would pay and the value they're getting, blah blah blah, all that stuff. But from a numbers crunching perspective, that is a very good way of looking at pricing yourself.
Yeah.
Um, so let me tell you that I worked in accounting for a very long time before I started my business. Yet Yet I was quite resistant. No, okay, look, I don't think resistant is the right word. I didn't know when it was time for me to switch to QuickBooks.
Mm.
So for the first many months, I tracked everything on a spreadsheet,
Mm-hmm.
not because I thought I had to, but just because that's how my brain works. Like, put it on a spreadsheet. That's
Right.
the way you think. I think spreadsheets. I think in cells, right? But coincidentally, that was exactly what, at the time, the bookkeeper needed to start my QuickBooks, because I didn't have, like, I didn't know how to use QuickBooks. I used different versions of that for bigger corporations, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I was quite like, I didn't know what time exactly in my first year of entrepreneurship do I make that switch. So what are your thoughts on that? Or not necessarily QuickBooks, like any bookkeeping
Yes.
software. So
Although
yeah,
I
or
am a
not. Yeah.
QuickBooks person, but yes,
Okay.
any bookkeeping software.
Yeah.
So my opinion is the sooner the better.
Mm-hmm.
So spreadsheets are one, like I love a good spreadsheet too. And look, you can do some wonderful
Spreadsheets are
things in a
sexy.
spreadsheet.
Yeah.
But when it comes to your bookkeeping,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be very manual.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little tedious. It's going to take time. When you
Mm-hmm.
use software, it's going to take some of the manual out of it, and it's going
Yes,
to
of
make it
course.
easier to like run reports. The reports
Mm-hmm.
you're going to need,
I love reports. Yeah.
yes, you can just click a button and run a report versus
Mm-hmm.
in Excel or a spreadsheet. You're going to have to build it. Like it's not going
Yeah.
to be readily made. So
Oh, I wasn't like, it was nothing fancy. I was just
yeah,
tracking things,
yeah.
right? But I was like, oh no, it's too early for me to go on QuickBooks. Too early for me to go on QuickBooks. Too early. I'm like, when is the right time? So as soon as possible,
As
yeah?
soon as possible. And because the thing about it is too, even when you're just starting out and you just have like a handful of expenses and maybe a little income coming in, that's a great time to actually kind of learn.
Ah,
When
yeah.
it's not so overwhelming and you have like
Yeah.
tons and tons of transactions coming in at one time, okay, maybe you have 5 transactions this month. You'll know, how do I categorize these 5 transactions to make sure they're
So that
right.
when they become 10, you know what to
Exactly.
do, because you know what to do with 5.
Exactly.
That's exactly what I tell people that go like, "Oh, my income is too little for me to track it and create the bucket system." I was like, "No, no, no, but this is a very good time for you to do it while it's still simple, because it will multiply, and once it multiplies, you're like, "Oh shit, it gets,
Exactly.
do it now before it gets complicated." I love that answer.
Yeah, I
Thank
love
you. That's
that.
cool.
That's and I don't think most people think about it. They're thinking of it as, oh, this is an expense I don't need to incur. But it's
Mhm.
like, if you're really trying to, whatever business you're trying to build, and you want it to grow, you won't really
Mhm.
know without having the data. And when you
Mhm.
use a software, it's going to help you gather
Mhm.
the right data that you need. And
Yeah.
when you have that data, then you can make a decision on, well, okay, I'm right here now. I want my business to do this next. Well, now you actually have some information. Like now you can actually see clearly, this is how much it's costing you to run your business. This is how much you're spending on software and apps. This is how much you're
Yeah.
spending on office supplies.
Exactly.
Then
Yeah.
you can say, okay, knowing this, I know I need to make this and I need to do this. And you can actually make the real decisions you need to make to move your business forward versus just trying to like figure it all out and just say, well, I'm tracking it on a spreadsheet, so that's good enough. And I'm like, it's good, but it's not good enough.
It's not good enough. Yeah. So, which brings us to the big T, taxes. So, tell us what, from your perspective, what is the correlation between a stress-free tax season for a business owner and perfectly kept books?
So, when it comes
Mhm.
to taxes, one thing to remember is you need good books to do taxes. So, no tax professional is going to want to, they're either not going to want to touch it or they're going to charge you extra if your books aren't in order because they need good, clean books so that they can file accurate taxes. So that's why it's important. So whether you're doing it by yourself, whether you have someone doing the bookkeeping, that's why it's important because you can literally just take it, hand it over to them, and then they can file the taxes very, very easily. And that's what we want. We want them to just be able to do their job. And then also another layer of that, because most people just think of, oh, I need to file my taxes at the end of the year. Well, you can actually plan for your taxes. Most people don't think about that. They're like, I just do it once a year, but you can actually plan for your taxes throughout the year by maintaining your books. Because you can look at your books and say, this is where I am right now. This is where I plan to go. And you can work with your tax professional and say, hey, what does my situation look like? And what do we need to do? What strategies can we use to help make my tax situation the best? And that's something to keep in mind. It's your tax situation. No one's is the same. So whatever advice, you see or strategies, it doesn't really matter because it's going to be very custom to you. Because your tax professional, they get to see your full story. So they get to see if you have a spouse, if you have children, if you have, investments, all these different things that you might have, they'll see the whole picture and then they can help you plan around that versus just taking random strategies and saying, oh, yes, I'm going to do this because I saw someone said we should do this. And it's like, no, your bookkeeping is going to give you the information that you need. You can provide that to your tax professional and then they can work with you and figure out what is the best route for you to take for your tax situation.
Yeah, there's something that I keep finding very like confusing is like why do people do their own taxes? People go to there are people that go and study this
Mm-hmm.
as like this science.
Mm-hmm.
And then people come to me feeling bad because they're unable to file their own taxes. I'm like, you're not supposed to.
Exactly.
I don't think you're supposed to. I mean, there's some software like TurboTax or whatever that makes it simple. And if you're like just you've got your one income,
Mm-hmm.
you're an employee and you get the piece of paper and your employer puts tax away and blah blah blah. That's simple enough. But when
Exactly.
you're a business owner and your spouse is a business owner and you've got W-9 income and W-2 income and all that stuff, or regardless what the documents are called in your country, wherever you're listening. Um, there are people out there that do this for a living and will do it way better than you will ever do it because that's their specialty.
Mm-hmm.
And they will be able to save you money and teach you things on how to be more savvy going ahead in your business because that's their job. So I really, really recommend that everybody set money aside throughout the year, have a bucket for your accountant and for your big bookkeeper so that it's a tedious pain in the ass thing that we all have to do, right? Death and taxes. But we can preempt the taxes part because we got to pay it, and we feel such heaviness when we haven't done our taxes in
Yeah,
years, right? It's so heavy. It feels like you're doing something wrong. It feels like, oh, it's not a nice feeling. So
exactly.
even if it's like this thing like the dentist, you got to do it
Mm-hmm.
and save for it and get someone good, get someone you feel safe with to do it with you and for
Exactly.
you, someone you
Yes.
trust, right? So someone you can email throughout the year. Some tax
Yes.
agents, some tax accountants, they do that.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's probably one of the most important relationships that you'll build is one that you'll build if you have a bookkeeper, the one you build with them, and then also the one with your tax professional. Because
Yeah.
usually those are the people that probably stick around the longest when it comes to your
Hmm.
business. Like other people, they come and go, but those are ones that are usually pretty constant. And so you want those to be great people that you
Yeah.
trust and you don't mind being vulnerable with because
Yeah.
they're gonna know it. Like you don't even have to tell them; they're gonna know because they're gonna see
Yeah, exactly.
it.
Exactly.
So
Like my tax person, oh my God. I would trust him to babysit Arby. That's how much I trust him. He'll be like, I have children, Nadine. I don't want to come and babysit your dog. But that's I'm just trying to say, like, I really feel like it's very important and
hmm
it feels much nicer to have that, that kind of relationship of trust. Tell us about the most common mistakes that people do, healers, coaches, practitioners do when it comes to bookkeeping.
I want to say there's probably two really really big things.
Hmm.
One, the first one, I see it all the time, is they don't reconcile.
Ooh, okay.
They don't reconcile. When you reconcile, what you're doing is you're checking like your bank account, your bank statements versus what you put into your bookkeeping software because you want to make
Hmm.
sure that it matches.
Hmm.
Because if it doesn't match, that means your numbers are probably wrong. And if your numbers are wrong, that means your taxes are going to be wrong. And then that means you also have incorrect information that you're trying to use to make decisions. So that is like a very, very important piece of the bookkeeping process that I see business owners who are doing their own books, they skip every
I
single time.
skip it. I skip it. I do it. I go back and do it once every 6 months, but I don't do it on a monthly basis. I feel fine. I mean, my expenses and income are.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing. I track everything on a spreadsheet, right?
Yeah.
And I do my bookkeeping. So it's like every 6 months I go and check in the numbers, and I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah. Exactly.
He's like, no, you're not.
Well, because not only are you double checking, the information, but you can also catch things. Say, for instance, maybe you signed up. You know how you sign up for a trial on something. You're like, oh, I'll test this out, but then you forget to cancel it, and then you've been charged for like 6 months, and you forgot about it. Catching little things like that is also a good way to do that when you're reconciling. So it's just it's verification, but it's also just kind of double checking and catching things.
If I may add in as well, with the whole process of reconciling, it is a good check-in with your body as well, to be like, check in how your body feels about every expense that you reconcile. Does it align? Does it not align? Does it feel gross? Are you doing it for the wrong reasons? Like, are you doing it to please the person that you're buying from? Is it something that used to turn you on before and light you up and now it doesn't? Do you need to unsubscribe from it? Do you need to look at a different service, for example, because somehow your body's like, no, this is not the right thing. Yeah. So this is a very good time to check in when you're reconciling.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And then the other big thing that I want people to have more comfort around is just asking for help. Yeah. By the time people ask for help, it's not too late. It's not too late, but it's just like all these things have happened and you're like, okay, I'm ready to get some help now. And then we go back and, clean things up or try to get things in order. But if you reach out immediately, like as soon as you have a question or as soon as you even have the thought, you're like, find someone that you can just, even if it's just asking questions, even if you don't need them to do anything, just sit there and answer questions for you. That is very, very valuable, because if you find a good person who will want to sit and answer your questions and give you the resources or referrals, whatever you need, that's going to put you so much further ahead than anyone else who just kind of sits and waits. Who, they wait those 3 years, but then you're already starting off from a good place because you're like, I'm getting the information I need. I'm connecting with the right professionals. I am setting myself up for success because I'm doing this from the jump.
Yeah, exactly. So back of house, meanwhile, back of house, what happens before somebody reaches out to a bookkeeper or a tax person? There's a lot of emotional turmoil that happens that I help people. This is one of the reasons people come to me, is that my books are out of order. I haven't filed my taxes. And from my perspective, you probably know what I'm about to say. It's a symptom of a money wound, right? It's not, this is not the problem. It is a symptom of a bigger problem of what are you making that mean about you? What expectations do you have of yourself, and how is this related to your sense of security, worth, safety, and all the good stuff, right? So that's where sometimes if you're really, really unable to, even though and you have somebody's information and you have a tab always open on their webpage and you're like, I'm about to ask them and something is stopping you, I would say there might be some kind of wounding happening here, and just to ask yourself deeper questions, because that's what's happening. Sometimes we don't reach out and ask questions, or we don't reach out and get the help that we need because we're scared, or maybe just because we've dealt with someone before that was not very nice. I remember I had a really bad dentist episode. Sorry, I'm just I'm comparing bookkeepers and tax people to dentists, and dentists.
It's true. Most people don't go to the dentist, just like they.
I love dentists now, but I did have a very bad dental appointment 10 years ago, and I neglected my teeth for 3 years, and it just kept on getting worse and worse and worse in my head. And then when I went in, I had to like take out 4
Mhm.
wisdom teeth at once. It was hell. And then
Mhm.
it went back into like, oh, I'm never going back to a dentist until I found someone I trust and all of that stuff. So
Yeah.
I understand when you've been hurt before by a bookkeeper. These people are nasty. No, I'm kidding.
Some of them are.
No, I'm joking. Everybody can be, right? Like everyone can, it just
Mhm.
depends on how much of your humanness and your sensitivity do you bring into your interaction with people, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah. So, how can someone learn bookkeeping? Not as a professional, but just to do their own books.
There's really, I think, the best way to learn, because there's plenty of like courses and things, and there's many ways that you can do it. But I guess one, first, check in with yourself to understand how you best learn something. Some people might be fine to like buy a course, they can walk through it and they'll be fine. Some people might actually just need to meet with someone, meet with a bookkeeper, someone who is a professional and can actually walk them through it. And I've definitely had clients that's what they needed. Like I offer a service where that's what I do. I show you how to do your books. And I enjoy doing it. Like I love to show people how to do it, because not just I want you to know how to do it and understand it and be able to do it on your own as long as you want to, but also I think about like future wise. What if you get to the point where you can't do your bookkeeping anymore? You have to hire it out. When you get to that point, I want you to feel confident and comfortable, so that not only are you handing it off and you're like, I know what's happening in my books, but you can provide a little bit of oversight to that bookkeeper, so that it's not just them doing whatever, because that has definitely happened. I've heard many, many horror stories. So not just kind of like throwing it off to someone else and you're just being completely blind to what's happening, but you can hand it over and I know what's going on in my books. So if something is off, like I know, or I can ask that question and say, hey, bookkeeper, this doesn't look right, can we double check this? That's what I want business owners to have the confidence to do, because I literally have a client like that. She's like one of my favorite clients, because she tracks her own stuff, as she should, and I'm doing her bookkeeping. So like if something looks off, or she's like, oh, this income goes to this income category versus the other, and I'm
Hmm.
just like, oh, I love that. I'm like, for me,
Hmm.
I get excited because someone is kind of double checking me. I like to make sure that it's
Yeah,
right,
it's a
because we want it to be right.
preparation. You don't just
Exactly.
like dump your stuff on your bookkeeper. Like,
Yes.
here, take it. I don't want to see it. I totally agree with that. Just like you know your numbers, and it's
Hmm.
really cool if you know how to do them. If you don't, if it's not your thing, it's also no shame,
Hmm.
right? But like just knowing your numbers and knowing what you're aware of. Like I had a bookkeeper years ago, years and years ago, and she would just like message me about a number, and I'll know exactly what it is. I'm like, no, this goes there. She'd be, how do you
Exactly.
know? Because I used to be you. I know what's happening in my books.
And that's
Yeah.
the thing too, is like really just being in touch with your business and your numbers, because
Mhm.
it is yours. It's your business.
Mhm.
So you want
Mhm.
to be in touch with what's going on and what's happening, so that you can provide that information to a bookkeeper, or
Yeah.
to anyone that's asking. So if anyone were to say, hey, how do you earn revenue? You can literally just say, oh, I do this, this, and this. This is how I earn my revenue. Like
Yeah.
it's not something you have to think about. It's just something automatically, because you know your business better than anybody else.
Are different income categories taxed differently?
No. Well, it could be, depending on what it is.
Mhm.
In general terms, if you have a business and you earn income from like multiple different sources, or you have different services, it would
Mhm.
all be taxed the
It's all
same.
the same.
But if it's something like outside of like your normal business, there could be something
So
different
if you
about
had a
it.
business where clients paid you for programs and then you got W-9 income, they're not taxed differently. They're
No.
just coded differently.
Yeah. Yeah. So like when
Yeah.
you set up your books, you can actually code it however you want to code, like whatever you want to see. Like if you want to see
Mhm.
this is revenue from clients, this is revenue from affiliates, this is revenue from
Mhm.
whatever you want to.
But it's all taxed
But
the same.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, like, I'm pretty sure that I'm not the only one here that is a little bit, teeny weeny, little bit obsessed with buying programs. And, it is about like working on improving my marketing, for example, or like once a year I do buy like a nice hefty certification program because I like to keep progressing my services, right? Like about 8 to 10, maybe more, 15 grand a year, where it goes to professional development. And I've got my marketing coaches, my business coaches, blah blah blah, all that stuff. So how do we code these, and are these generally deductible?
So yes. So when we think about just in general terms, if we can deduct something, one, you should be able to answer the question, what is the business purpose? So if you can
Mm-hmm.
answer that question, you'll probably be fine. But in terms of how the IRS puts it, it needs to be reasonable
Mm-hmm.
and and it needs to make sense.
Yeah.
So in my business as a bookkeeper, I might have expenses that don't make sense for Nadine because we have two
Mm-hmm.
different businesses. But
Mm-hmm.
it's still a very valid business expense because I
Mm-hmm.
know the business purpose behind it.
Yeah,
And at the end of the
exactly.
day, that's all you need to be able to prove is that there is
Yeah.
a business purpose behind it. If you
Like
can't
as a
prove
bookkeeper,
it,
then that's like a bit of a gray
that's
area. Like
yeah,
even would it make sense, for example, if you as a bookkeeper decides to go and become more trauma informed, for example, and you do a
mhm,
program, and that would be just so that you're more sensitive with your clients, that
exactly,
that would be like, it is seemingly unrelated, but it definitely is, because it improves your
exactly,
services and it makes you look at your clients from a different angle, right?
exactly. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So that's a good thing.
Yes. So
What
so
about
yes.
like
So yes,
yeah.
having a professional development or continuing education category, however you want to word it,
Mhm,
is definitely something that is perfectly fine for any business owner. And it should be.
mhm. Yeah.
Every business owner should have something invested in that
Yeah.
area so that they can improve not just themselves, but improve their business as well.
Yeah, improve and grow and keep up with the trends, not trends,
Exactly.
but keep up with like new research and new
Hmm.
whatever it's going on. And yeah, so I like to always like think about, I mean, I'm very practical, right? So I like to have an end of month checklist, an end of year checklist. So, from a bookkeeping, maybe even a little bit of tax perspective, what is an end of month checklist that you would suggest to our audience?
So every month, there's a few things you should be doing. Categorizing the transactions, so putting them in the right place.
So, coding.
Reconciling. So we're going to compare your bookkeeping software to your statements,
Hmm.
reviewing your reports. So
Hmm.
actually, like, open up the reports and look at them. Most people
So,
don't look
what
at them.
reports? What
And
reports
so we would be
exactly?
the three main reports would be your
Hmm.
P&L, so the profit and loss or income statement, depending on how you
Hmm.
see it worded, the
Hmm.
balance sheet,
Hmm.
and then the statement of cash flow.
Okay.
Another, if you invoice, so say if you invoice clients, another report you would want to look at is an AR aging, because that's going to
Okay.
tell you who owes you and how much is owed to you, so you know who to follow up with.
Mhm.
But yes, so actually reviewing the reports, and then um,
So, code, like categorize,
yes,
reconcile, review reports. That three things. What else?
yeah, and then I mean that's pretty much it.
That's it. That's it. Mhm. So, can you just tell us quickly about these three reports, just so that people don't get
Yes,
flustered? I know
yes,
I love your way of making things very simple. So, I'm pretty sure everybody would want to hear your take on these three reports.
yes. So your P&L, profit and loss, income statement, you can hear it any of those ways. That's the report most people talk about most of the
Hmm.
time. So it's going to
Hmm.
tell you how much money you made, how much money you spent, and then what's left over. So that's
Yeah.
whether you
What's your
have a
profit?
profit or a loss.
Hmm.
That's all. That's what it's telling you. That's the main report that we're looking at because it's probably telling us the most information.
Hmm.
It's literally telling us everything we probably need, most of the things we need to know.
Yeah.
Then you have your balance sheet, which is just it just kind of tells you the status of your business as far as what you own, what you owe, and then your stake in the business. So you'll see like assets, liabilities, and equity. And that's what that report is telling you. So just at a quick snapshot, what does your business look like right now? So if you want to know how much is in your bank account, it will be on that account, on that particular report. If you want to know
Yeah.
how much you owe on loans, it will be on that report. If you want to know how much money you've taken out, it will be on that report. So that's a good report to look at as well.
Hmm.
And then the last report, which many people don't really talk about or say much about, is the statement of cash flow. But for a business, especially a smaller business, it's probably the most important because it's actually telling you where your cash went. So you look at your P&L, you're like, oh, I made this much revenue, I have this much profit left. But then you look at your bank account and that's not what you see in your bank account. And the reason why is because things have actually happened with your cash that is not reflected on the profit and loss. So you want to see, like, maybe you paid on your credit card. Maybe you took money out, which is usually the bulk of what it is, because as a business owner, you're taking money out. And looking at that, you can actually see, okay, well, where is my cash actually going? So that if you need to make adjustments, then you can make those adjustments. But then you also know, this is why I don't see that profit number on my P&L in my bank account.
Gotcha. Yeah. And that makes me think, like, we should have started this whole chat about how important it is for business owners to separate their business from their
Oh,
personal accounts.
yes.
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 And even their credit cards, like I personally use a personal credit card, but it's only for the business. So
Exactly.
I don't use a business credit card per se, but one of my credit cards is linked to my business, is linked to my QuickBooks, and it's solely for the business. So
Exactly.
do not mix.
Yes. Do
Please
not
do not
mix. Do
mix.
not
Yeah.
mix. And
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 when
that's and
you,
that's the thing. You can do that. It's perfectly fine. Like
yeah,
if you say you can't get a business credit card, or maybe you just don't want to.
yeah, I
If you
don't want
already
to.
have a card, it's fine. But just use it just
Don't
for the
mix.
business and don't put
Yeah.
anything else on there. And it's
And
perfectly fine.
tell us about the process of paying ourselves as business owners.
So I guess without getting too much into like too detailed, because it depends on the type of business that you have and
Yeah,
how
the
how
entity.
your
So
business is set up. In general terms,
like a single member LLC.
yes, which a lot of people are.
Hmm.
It's as simple as transferring money from your business to your personal account.
Hmm.
That is literally
And
it.
categorizing it
And
as
it
owner's
would
draw.
be, yeah, an owner's draw. So
Hmm.
it's not like rocket science. It's nothing
Hmm.
that has to be difficult. It's just making that transfer. And you do want to make an actual transfer and not like just spend the money on your business card. So
Hmm.
physically
Yeah, an actual transfer.
make a transfer
Mhm.
from your business to your personal, and you've paid yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us about what happens with taxes then. So let's say you make $10,000 in the month of July and you pay yourself like 5 grand, right? So what happens? What gets taxed and what happens exactly as a single member LLC?
So the thing about the single member LLC, you're going to be taxed based on your profit. So
Mm-hmm.
how much money you put in or you take out, it doesn't even matter,
Mm-hmm.
because it depends on your profit and loss statement. What is that
Yeah.
number at the bottom? And that's
Mm-hmm.
what you're going to be taxed on. And
Yeah.
that flows through to your personal taxes. So it's literally an
Exactly.
extra form on your taxes, and it all
Mm-hmm.
flows through together. So you don't have to do anything special or different. You can take out money. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to hurt you tax wise. It just depends on what your actual profit at the end of the day is.
Yeah.
As far as when you get into like how much you're paying in taxes or ways to save, depending on what that profit number is, like your tax professional might make recommendations
Mm-hmm.
to, help reduce that liability. But
Mm-hmm.
as just a single member LLC, it just depends on what your profit is. So if you have a lot of
Exactly.
profit,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be paying taxes.
Mhm.
But
So
yeah.
the members draw that comes out of the profit, it's not a profit is, yeah, it does, doesn't it?
So
Yeah.
technically the member's draw is coming out of your profit, but
Yeah, exactly.
you don't see it. So it doesn't affect
You don't
you.
see it that
Yeah,
way. Yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't like
Yeah.
affect you negatively or, anything like that.
Mm, cool. Well, anything else that you would like to add to this conversation?
Oh, just one little, since I actually have the shirt on. One thing to keep in mind is that at the end of the day, it's on the business owner to be able to support and prove anything that they're putting on their taxes. So as a business owner, if you're taking deductions and you're doing all these wonderful things, you would want to be prepared in case of an audit. You probably won't be audited. Most people aren't, like it's probably rare, but in the case that you are audited by the IRS, you would want
Mhm.
to be prepared. And the best way to be prepared is, one, having your books up to date,
Yeah.
and then keeping all documentation. So keeping your receipts, copies of invoices, copies of everything, keeping them in a safe place where you can easily access them so that if that day were to come, you would be prepared. And it wouldn't be a long drawn out process. It would be very simple because you've been doing what you need to do. You've reported everything accurately. You have the support that you need to, verify everything that you put there. And it's going to just make that process easier if that were to ever happen. So we want to prepare like we'll be audited, although we probably won't, but prepare like we will.
Yeah. So I love sending all my receipts to an email address. So just having like Nadine so much receipts, or I usually send it to a Gmail account of my business, and that's where all my receipts go. So let's say I'm enrolling in a course or a program, whatever. I buy it from my normal email address because that's what I will be using in the login. But then when I receive the receipt, I just forward that receipt onto my receipts email. And this way they're all in one place. So here's a tip for you all.
Yeah, that's literally what I do. In my email, I have, of course, I use Google. So, they have labels, and I have a label for receipts.
Oh, yeah, that's another way of doing it.
Every receipt I get, it just goes into that receipt label. And if I ever need to find it, I know it's going to be in the receipts label.
Yeah,
and I can
that's beautiful.
Easily
It can be simple. It really can be simple. And if it feels complicated, it just means you need a little bit of hand holding. No shame in that. I mean, we just keep laughing that we're both money nerds, but let's just normalize, and let's each talk about something that we're not naturally good at. So what are you not naturally good at, Misa?
Well, let's see. So something that I actually ended up outsourcing this year was a big part of my marketing. It was fun. Like, it's fun and exciting, but it's very, very draining, and it takes a lot. And so being able to let someone else do that can, especially when it comes to like my email list and my blog post, I really, really wanted to be consistent and do that. But I'm like, I don't know how to write it. I don't really know how to write an email, and I really don't want to sit here and try to figure it out. And blogs.
Exactly. My Achilles heel is the same. I've talked about it a lot on this podcast of like, marketing does not come naturally to me, right? Like, I can talk about my business all day long, but sit me down and say, write a post about your business. I'll be like, I don't know what to say.
And it's been really, really awesome because like I come up with all these ideas. So like I'll have tons and tons of ideas, just things that just pop up. And I have someone who can take my idea and then like create an email, create a blog post. It's amazing to see. Yeah, like to take because sometimes I don't know where I'm going with the idea. I'm like, I have this idea.
And they just bring it home because that's their natural talent. So we're both really natural with numbers, but we're not natural with when it comes to marketing, for example.
No.
Maybe it's a thing, Misa. Maybe
it might be with numbers. It might be, and especially like it would just take me a lot of time. Like, could I figure it out? I probably could, but it would take so long.
Whereas you can create a yummy job opportunity for someone that does it so much better than you, just like taxes. Just give it to someone, pay them, and get just that's what they do. That's what happens with marketing as well. So there you go, everyone. You might be very natural at marketing and not natural at numbers. That's why the world turns the way it turns. It's because some of us are good at things and some of us are not good at other things. So there you go.
Yes. And you don't have to do all that. Like in the you don't have to do all the things.
Yes.
Too. I know a lot of times, especially in the beginning, we do wear a lot of hats, but there's so many different ways to kind of outsource or like allow help to come in without it just being full force. Someone else is doing it. So just, you can be a little creative with how you get the help that you need and not feel like you're overwhelmed because you're doing literally everything.
That's the biggest mistake new entrepreneurs do, new business owners do, is believing that they need to do everything. You should have seen me trying to build my own website. That was not fun for even my husband and dog to watch. They're like, Mommy lost her mind. Why is she yelling at a screen for days? So yeah. I totally encourage everyone to reach out to Misa if they need any help with bookkeeping. Where can they find you if they choose to?
So if you want to find me, you can find me on my website. So
Mhm.
perfectlykept.books.com. I'm on social media, so you can find me at Perfectly Kept Books, Instagram, Facebook, whatever's out there.
Great name. I love your business name, and it's perfect. Perfectly Kept Books, and it just suits you.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Perfectly Kept Books is where you can find Misa, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Reach out to us if you have any questions, and I'll see you all next week. Bye for now.